And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Pastor Sal said in this week's epistle, and as Nancy just said, stewardship is about giving time, giving talent, and giving your treasure. I'm an economist by training, so I'll be talking about treasure. Time and talent you can do by singing, or as many of you have done in many ways. There are lots of things that can be accomplished here, can be volunteered for, and people have been very good about that in this congregation. A finance committee was formed at the time we began the search and call process to find a pastor. And that group included Paul Burdick, Mike Ramirez, Lynn Snyder, Mike Austin, Chuck Smith, and me. The information that we collected over the past 10 years suggested that we could not afford to hire a full-time pastor. We had had a full-time pastor as long as anyone could remember. So the church council and the congregation ultimately made a decision that we would hire a three-quarter time pastor. That is, pay someone for 3/4 rather than full pay. And with that in mind, I almost said luckier than hell, which I probably shouldn't say. We were very fortunate to find such. And we old-timers say to each other that the secret we discovered to getting a full-time pastor is to hire a part-time pastor. We tried hiring full-time and gotten part-time, so we did it the other way around. It's working very well. As part of that process, then the church came up with a budget, presented it to the congregation, and I'll give you just the broad outline of it. This is the budget for fiscal year 2014-15, beginning July 1st. It began July 1st, and will run through June 30th of 2015. That budget comes to about $90,000, $90,850 to be exact. Let's call it $90,000. Expenses I've broken out just in two categories. One is our people, our staff. Sal's salary, and fringe benefits, Social Security, housing allowance, variety of things. And then the other two paid employees, Peter Black, our wonderful pianist, and Lori Vandenbelt. I don't think Lori's here today. Lori is on the board, on the council, but she's also our cleaner. And those of you who have been here off and on for some time have noticed things have never looked better. Lori's doing a wonderful job. The way we reward people is to not pay them well. I'm sorry to say. We will try to bump that up over time if we can. So our people are 2/3 of our expense, which seems appropriate, and the remaining 1/3 covers everything else. Importantly, in that 1/3 of expenses is mission. And for I think the first time, 10% of our budget is allocated to mission giving. So instead of having mission be whatever we might have left over, up front we are allocating 10% of the budget to mission. So we're proud of that as a congregation, and we might want to do more of that. So 1/3 to mission, utilities, insurance, keeping the lights on, plowing the parking lot, all of those sorts of mundane things, insurance. 2/3 people, 1/3 everything else. On the income side, the budget suggested that giving would be about 70% of the income that we raise over the year. So about 2/3, a little more than 2/3 from weekly offerings and electronic giving. And let me just say, if you saw this week's epistle, Sal had a very clear, understandable explanation of how to become an electronic giver. I want to encourage you to do that. It's very helpful to have that money coming in regularly when you're out of town, when you've forgotten. The church, of course, has ongoing expenses, so it'd be lovely to have ongoing gifts from all of you. The other 30%, then, if 70% was going to be giving, the other 30% was the duck fund, and Sal also had an explanation of the duck fund. And we are using the interest, part of the interest earned by the duck fund, to fund, according to the budget, 27% of this year's budget. Fully $25,000 is coming out of the interest from the duck fund, going into this year's budget. Big numbers. too big perhaps, and I want to come back to that. The remaining 2% of the budget, 70% giving, offering, 27% duck fund, remaining 2% from fundraising and from using this building and using the retreat house. So how are we doing? We are 3 months into the new fiscal year, July, August, and September. Budgeted expenses, 1/4 of the $90,000 would come to $22,500. So we're spending about $22,500 on salaries and all other things. Importantly, how's the income? I'm delighted to say, for these 3 months, we have raised $21,058. So we're running way ahead of the budgeted income. In fact, offerings are fully 93.6% of all income needs in the budget. You're doing a wonderful job. Oh, before I get too excited about that, by the way, that does not include special gifts, the pews that you're sitting on so comfortably. Other special gifts, one of which is going to be to renovate the Friendship Hall. We're going to paint that, have the floor redone, make it more attractive and comfortable and conducive to all of us spending time there. From a transparency point of view, an easy way for you to track how we're doing. To fully fund the budget, to have only offerings provide income to the church, we would need to raise $1,750 per week, $1,750 per week. If we raise that, we will cover all of the income needs in the budget. What have we been doing? We have been averaging $1,620 per week in July, August, and September. So we are $130 per week short of fully funding the budget with just the giving, the electronic giving, the weekly offerings that you provide. I think that we're doing marvelously. In fact, I thought it would be worse than that when I started looking at some of the numbers. So congratulations to all of us. If you continue to give, if we continue to give at this level, or maybe slightly higher, there are 3 things we might do, and these are ideas that have been percolating in this congregation for the last couple of years. The first is to try to increase the salary that we pay to Sal, move closer to full-time, increase what we pay Peter, increase what we pay Laurie. By the way, Jeff, our wonderful pastor, is an unpaid staff member. He volunteers his time and his talent on a weekly basis. So he's a staff member, but he's a volunteer staff member. A wonderful thing. So one possibility, what would we do with additional money, maybe shift duck fund money, would be increase our salaries a bit to our paid staff. Secondly, we could cut back on the amount of duck fund subsidies that we've been providing. Rather than $25,000 allocated this year to go into the budget, we could cut that in half, cut that to $5,000, take it to 0 if the offering income continues to be good. A third possibility is more mission, more outreach. Now these are just 3 ideas that have been mentioned. No decisions have been made. Decisions are made in a congregational church by the congregation. So we will jointly make a decision as to how we want to allocate additional money, whether we want to continue to have as much duck fund earnings go into our budget, or whatever change we might want to have. If you have a pet project that you think we should undertake as a congregation, and some of this, by the way, came out of the New Beginnings program, which you'll hear more about, you're welcome to suggest that, make the case, and see if the congregation would choose to go along. So, this was not inspirational, but good news. Inspiration will come the next 3 Sundays. You'll hear from other people, speaking more from the heart rather than from the calculator. Thank you.